Welcome to the My Jesus Story podcast. I'm Kim, and today we're with Amber.
Hi, I'm Amber. I'm happy to be here.
Great. I'm thankful that you're here too. A lot of times we start with a question like, where did you first learn Jesus or learn about Jesus or find a relationship with Jesus?
Okay. So I first found Jesus. Grew up going to the same church that I go to now. Shortly after my family moved here, there was a lady who went to the church with us, who years later I would go to name a kid after. Never realized that she would be such an important part of my life. But she started walking my brother and I to church on Sundays when I was very little. Slowly, my mom started going to church with us, and then my dad. So I grew up in the church, and that's where I first learned who Jesus was and started my relationship with him.
Was it like Bible verses and songs, or did you instantly know oh, there is something to this?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was young. I think maybe 5. So it started out just Bible verses, songs, vacation Bible school, so many memories of that. And I remember sitting in service with my brother a lot, being terribly bored, and just doodling and writing notes and distracted. But I think eventually over time of doing that, something clicked inside of me of, oh, this is why I'm here. This is kind of the purpose of coming.
Okay. Do you remember the first time you kind of felt like you understood that Jesus was somebody you could talk to, like a friend, not so much like an authoritarian over you, like, don't do that, but more like someone who you could chat with?
I don't think I realized that honestly until later on in my life. So going through the motions of being a kid and going to church and sitting bored in service, it doesn't really resonate with you that Jesus is somebody that you can communicate with and talk to. And when I was a late teenager, 17, my mom had passed away, and I lost my relationship with God. Was angry for a little bit, was bitter, was more just confused in life. So I don't think until my adult years did I realize the purpose of prayer and talking to God and developed that relationship deeper.
Can you, or do you feel like talking about what brought you back to him? First of all, the fact that you can be angry with God is, I think, a cool thing. Because he's God, he can handle it, right? You can be ticked off at him and he's still going to love you. But can you talk about when you kind of softened your heart to him a little bit to come back?
Yeah, I think having kids changes something inside of you. And so when my husband and I started having kids, I wanted to raise them in church. I didn't want them to be angry at God or be resentful. I wanted them to know him and to love him and to seek him. And so having kids took me back. I think I'd gone probably a handful of times since between my mom passing away and having a family of my own. So it just wasn't very consistent. And I think being a parent and wanting them to also know Jesus is what led me to come back. So I slowly, with each child, went a little bit more. And then eventually my husband started going as well. And then it became routine again. And our relationship with God grew at that point in time.
So where do you, kind of a weird question, where do you find yourself with God now?
It's funny timing to be asking that. I feel like the past couple years have been challenging, to say the least. And I did go through a brief period of time, maybe last summer, as soon as that, where I felt almost like an imposter. I was just almost. So I think a better way to explain it is whenever people go through tragedy and hard times, I feel like the response from Christians is, well, how did you get through? Well, Jesus, I leaned on Jesus. And so when you're in the midst of crisis, I think it's really hard to lean on Jesus. I think it's really easy to become angry at him and become bitter. I've spent a lot of days and nights yelling at God and asking why. And I felt like maybe I wasn't able to be like those people who said, "Oh, I just prayed through it. I just leaned on God. I just trusted him." So I felt more of an imposter in my faith journey, because I didn't feel like at the end of this road that I'm currently traveling that I could say, "Oh, God got me through. I prayed, I leaned on him." So it took me a long time, because I really struggled with that for a little bit. I now forget your original question.
Where are you with God now?
Thank you. So I feel like I needed a moment of just yelling, just releasing all of my bitterness and all of my anger to really learn how to talk to him again and how to draw nearer to him. So I do feel like I've come through that hump. Like I can say that God has gotten me through all of my recent struggles in life. So I feel very connected.
Do you feel like during that time you had an underlying feeling of God saying, "It's okay, Amber, you can be ticked off at me. I will be here waiting when you're done"?
I do definitely think so. It was so easy for me to be angry and to yell. And honestly, during like the times of my darkest, deepest anger, I did, looking back, have this sense of peace of I'm still angry, but I also oddly can't explain why at the same time I feel like it's still okay. So I do think that was probably God just letting me be in that moment, but still walking alongside me in that moment.
So you have your kids in church, and they are learning the same principles that you learned when you were little. How do you reinforce those principles or try to guide them to follow Jesus in a world that kind of tells them to follow things of their heart and the desires of, give me this name brand, or, I want that, to watch that or listen to that musician?
First off, I think it's really hard. There are so many things in the world that are influencing adults and young children today. And so I think parenting is the hardest job on the face of this planet. Two, when you factor in all of the things outside of our home and our family and our church, because those are things I can control. When I send my kids out into the world with friends at school, at sporting events, they're encountering so many different things that maybe we're not exposed to in our own little bubble of a world. And so I think navigating alongside of them, right? Because we are also exposed to these things too. And so being just open and honest with them instead of trying to shelter, instead of trying to like pull away, is realizing that I can't shelter them. I can't prevent them from being around all of these outside elements, but I can face them head on with them and sit down with them and talk about them and talk about how it differs from what we do in our home and what we see and what Jesus kind of tells us is right and wrong. And so you can't take it away. And I'm not a perfect parent, and so I can't fix every problem. I can only pray over them, walk with them. And I try to really just set a good example that I want them to mirror. And I think a big thing of what I preach to them is not casting judgment on others and still loving others regardless of how they differ from you, and maybe hating the sin and not the actual sinner themselves, and still loving people through whatever decisions that they make. Because I think that's really important, is just remembering at the end of the day, we are human. We are all created in God's image. And sin is sin, regardless of how you look at sin. I sin. my kids sin, my friends sin. There's so many people who around us sin, and someone's sin, while we may look at it and be like, oh, that's so much bigger. It's not. That's not for us to say. That's not our decision to make. And so trying where we can to not actively sin, but also still remembering that, like I said, we're created in God's image. And so I don't know if that answers your question at all, but kind of just walking with them and learning and navigating with them.
That's a good point. Love the sinner, hate the sin.
Yeah. So especially in school, my kids will come home, and I work with teenagers. The teenagers will come to me and be like, oh, can you believe what happened today? I'm like, oh, okay. Well, let's kind of break this down and talk about this. And let's, talk about all of the layers, because oftentimes there's so many layers to what's out there in the world.
All right. So let's break down just for fun. How do you, is there an easy way that you have talking to, say, an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old about judgment? What do you, how do you say, you know what, maybe that's not the best thing to do without making them feel judged?
Again, I don't think there's like a right or wrong answer for this, but I think just kind of breaking things down to their understanding. I like to talk a lot in examples, or kind of put myself in a make-believe story that I make up of, this one time this happened to me, or, kind of like mirroring the situation to where it's not casting any shame on them, or any, any negative feelings towards the situation. But I think it's easy. Things are easier in story version.
Yeah. Jesus did teach in parables, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's easier to break things down that way. I feel like my kids learn better, or they maybe retain more of the story that I'm telling them, or the example that I'm giving, as opposed to saying, no, we don't do that. Because as soon as my mom voice comes out, it's their hearing just goes. And so avoiding using the mom voice with them, and whatever I can do, just making it something relatable that they'll retain.
Yes, that's good. That's good advice. That's good advice. Do you feel like there have been any times where you've had to surrender something to God that you knew was a problem, or that He kind of let you know that was a problem?
I think I talk a lot about I have talked a lot about like the personal struggles in my life the past couple of years, and how recently I just kind of went through that angry phase. I think that was also a phase of like not trusting God's plan for me, and being angry with Him. And so I think coming through, I'm still not, the life is still hard, right? We all go through really hard times. And so hard times are not done in my life. They're not done in anyone's life. But I think coming through that really hard patch with not trusting God's plan was really imperative. And I needed to go kind of just surrender all of that to Him, and get through the anger, get through the bitterness, and realizing that I'm not trusting, and I'm not following where I should go, and I'm kind of guarding my heart. And so I think I needed to go through all of those motions. I went and sat and listened to a really wonderful speaker during the midst of all of this. I went to a women's retreat with a friend of mine. And before leaving, I was like, this is the friend I talked to about, I don't feel like a good Christian. I don't feel like I'm going to come through this and say, God got me through. And I don't feel like I can lean on Him through all of this, and I must be doing something wrong. And so we went on this women's retreat. At this point in time, I'm like, I don't even know if I should go. I don't know where I am in life. And there was a really great speaker there who said something that I still use. I say still, like it's been years. It hasn't been that long ago. But I use in a lot of different aspects of life. And she was more talking about tension at meetings. And if you go into a meeting in life and you have an agenda and you want things to go a certain way. And I was like, well, I'm not in a meeting right now, but I'm in like life and I have an agenda for my life and I want things to go a certain way. I want this, and this to happen. And that's my agenda. And she said, what if the devil's looking, or what if you're looking over the shoulder of the devil? Because the devil also has an agenda too. What's he going to be writing on his agenda for the meeting? And so I was like, well, hot dog. What, I'm going to look over the devil's shoulder. What is the devil wanting for my life?
Yeah.
And so he doesn't want me to follow Jesus. He doesn't want me to trust in his plan. He doesn't want me to feel peace. He doesn't want me to be a disciple and to bring more people to Jesus. And so that's what the devil wants for me. Because of course he's got his own agenda for my life too. I can have all the agendas that I want, and he's going to have his too. And so that really, really hit home with me of, wow, what's on his agenda? And so, I mean, I've used it for like simple things too. Like an argument with my husband. I'll be like, what is on the devil's agenda for us right now? Because it's not what's on our agenda. And so I will forever share that line in that story because it really hit home to me.
For sure.
And I feel like that's the point where I'm like, is this the devil casting all of this doubt inside of me and wanting to push me away from God and wanting to tear me down? And maybe it was because he, like I said, he didn't want me to experience all of those things.
That's a visual.
Yeah.
That's an excellent visual, isn't it? You keep saying you feel like an imposter when you have doubts, but I just feel like that's more like just being a real honest person who believes in Jesus and doesn't understand what's happening. And I can identify with the not trusting thing too. So it's just, when you when you enjoy control and you can see what's 10 feet in front of you and you can control the midst to get there, it's easy. But when, the last step is yanked out from underneath your feet and you're almost to the goal, which is something that would bring him glory anyways. And you're like, what in the world? How can I? Yeah, no, I totally understand that trusting. So thank you for saying that. The imposter, it's not being an imposter. I think it's just being like a human,
Yeah. It took me a little bit to wrap my brain around that and understand that.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, trust is like, it's like I didn't get my way. What do you mean you took this person? What do you mean I don't get that thing that I wanted? So now I can't trust you. So in my brain, it's me being like a 5-year-old kicking and screaming. And he got on one, so I don't trust you now.
Yes.
But
I relate to
it's not really.
Yes.
That's not the way it's supposed to go. Submit your ways to me and I'll make the path straight.
Yes.
He knows what he's doing. But yes, I appreciate that your imposter phrase, because it's just being realistic.
Yeah, I think I went through a period where I was like, well, I know that Jesus doesn't take our struggles away, but I also know he walks with us through our struggles. So there's no way he's walking through this with me right now. Where is he? So I think just trusting that, and no, he was still walking with me through those took a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. For sure. When you're in the midst of a struggle, where do you, not so much where do you look for security because you're going to look to Jesus, but is there like a scripture or a Bible story? Like since we already determined that I have had previous trust issues with understanding what God was doing, Noah to me is the greatest guy ever, because his obedience to follow what God wanted him to do in a time when it made zero sense. That guy is he's a pinnacle to me. So in a time when you're struggling or in a time when things are going sideways, where do you look?
Yeah. I can't necessarily say like any one scripture speaks to me or gives me that like grounding or peace. I'm more of like a music kind of person. And so just kind of losing myself in the lyrics of songs it usually just brings me back down to earth and kind of centers me. And that's where I find most of my like peace and security at, is just listening to the very real words of some songs that are very relatable.
Right.
I'm like, oh gosh, that one hit home.
Right. Is there a certain artist that you like?
Not necessarily, no. And I think it's at different parts of my life, sometimes different songs have come on that have come on a lot during those times in my life. And maybe it's just the ones that I'm drawn to of, oh, this is really kind of speaking to me right now. So I feel like there's certain songs that take me back to a certain event in my life that the song got me through. So I don't know that any one artist, I don't know that any one song, but I think definitely there's times where certain music has kind of played on repeat.
Yeah. I remember when I was first trying to switch from regular radio to Christian music, I like to be able to sing along with the music. I like to sing the songs on the way to work. So, and I was like, I can't sing Christian songs because I don't know the words to them. And although they're catchy, and you can get a hip hop Christian song, you can get a, kind of a solemn one, or one that's more serene. But so I tried to turn on the Christian radio. I didn't know the song. I turned it back to country, which is what I listened to. But then it seemed like more often the same song was playing when I turned it on. So then I learned, and I was like, well, this is pretty cool. Is this the only song that's ever on this station?
Yeah.
But I learned that song. And then in the process, I learned a couple others. And then I learned artists that I liked. And it was really cool to kind of experience it happening, because now I can sing along with that music. And when you hear a new song come on the radio and you've never heard it, then you pay attention to the words a little bit more closely, and they hit pretty good.
Yeah. I think songs, I think, come on at times where they're needed, and I think that's a good example.
Yeah.
I think another example, when I was in labor with our last, it was a hard labor, and things were scary, and she was premature, and like one complication after another. But the song "Fear Doesn't Stand a Chance When I Stand in Your Love" continued to play when I was in labor. Wow. And I was like, why is this on my playlist so much? This is wild to me. But every couple songs, that song would come on. And so now, still every time that song plays, it takes me back to the labor. Yeah. Like that, it got me through, because I was like, I just remember being so scared. And so the unknown, I had no idea what to expect, what I was walking into. I knew I felt terrible. Like, it just so many compounding things, but fear didn't stand a chance when I stood in his love. And so, I think that's certain cool songs story. Just come on.
Yeah. Can you think of any other times where you can point to something that happened in your past and think, that was God? Like, hindsight's 2020. So God was working that out, or, I wish I would have paid closer attention.
I think, gosh, there's so many times that it's hard to see in the moment where you don't know why things are happening the way they are. But I think there's so many times that I can now look back and see, I think that happened for a reason. I think that was God pushing things to happen. Things that I never expected to happen. Like leaving one job for another, one job that I loved and I thought was my dream job, to coming into a new job and realizing, this is, I came into this new job with this new schedule, and my life happened to fall apart after it came. Like, maybe I needed this new schedule. Maybe I needed more family time. And so kind of realizing in hindsight, I was probably placed in that position to prepare me for the hard times ahead, and to better, just prepare me.
Yeah. What lifts your spirits?
I think we touched on music, kind of centering me and grounding me. But I think in terms of lifting spirits, I have a really great friends group from church, a women's group, that we're kind of traveling our faith journey and our life journey and parenting journey all together at one time. And so having those girls who are also in the same stages of life, kind of dealing with the same struggles, not all at the same time, fortunately, kind of taking our turns of who's struggling the most at what point in time in life, has really kind of been my saving grace and I don't remember the exact way you worded the question, but where I find like just happiness and peace and just so much. I've gained so much from that group of women.
Like support and almost accountability to a point.
Yeah, checking all of the boxes. So I think it's important to have those people in your life where we're at church together on Sunday mornings, but we're also doing things throughout life together and kind of walking the same journeys together.
Yeah, that's important. And then looking, I'm in a phase of life, at least, where I'm now the person of the age group where people look to for how you're supposed to act. And man, that is daunting.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a fantastic job of
it. I get it wrong most of the time. I go home and I'm like, well, we'll try again tomorrow.
Oh, give yourself some grace.
But that's it's interesting that there are different phases in life where the little kids look up to the teenagers. Yeah. And then the teenagers are looking to the 20-somethings. And I feel like you're almost like looking to the next generation, whatever that is above you.
Yes.
Or, okay, how do I do this right?
Yes, watching and learning. And there's so much value in that.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we can all read about Jesus. We can all read the stories. We can all learn about Jesus. We can all know that we are supposed to be like Jesus. But it's really hard to what does that actually look like? How does it look to be like Jesus? You can't walk on water. I can't, all of these miracles, I can't perform those. Right. That's kind of crazy. But I think being like Jesus is so much more than that. And honestly, so much easier than that. And so I think looking to those women to see how are they doing it? How are they loving people? How are they pouring into their community? How are they bringing people to Jesus? What are they doing? Because they've got it figured out.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. It's it's a hefty weight to bear, but it's also it can be fun loving. And it's if you're relying on Jesus, it's a little freeing. If you're relying on yourself, it's quite scary. So on the days where I'm like, yep, you could have done better. I'm probably harder on myself than most people are harder on themselves than their friends are. But it shows the value of modeling the behavior to everyone around you, because the 5-year-olds are watching and the 45-year-olds are watching too.
Yeah.
So, and there are so many people that I have looked up to at our church. That they handled that so well. That was such a great way. I need to put that in my little toolbox of how to handle things.
Yes. So, I would agree. I also think there's something to say for, gosh, you said it first, so I feel like I can say it, the older generations, showing love on the younger generations who are looking up to them and just saying encouragement to the other way from them that we're also doing things well and just feeling like we are seen and we are loved and that we are following those footsteps in a way that they're happy with and that they notice goes a long way also. And to know that those older ladies are praying for us and they see us in this hard stage of life has been really amazing. Our church does a really great job of that.
Yeah. I've heard some older ladies say, I don't know why I'm still here. And I'm like, because your prayers. Yeah. My gosh, your prayers. Yes. They have a way. I'm learning. So the question we always end on is, you're sitting on a bench with Jesus. You look at him and say,
I think I would have questions for him. Are you seeing this also? What do I do? Because I think just the stories of Jesus and knowing who he is and navigating things with so much grace and beauty and just, what do I do? are you witnessing all of this as
Mhm.
well?
Mhm.
Which is probably a very silly thing to say to Jesus, but I don't know that I would have this some grand statement for him. I think it would be more of a, gosh, am I doing things right? What do I do?
Mm-hmm. That's a good response, because I think most people come at it from they've already passed, they're in heaven, but you're like, no, I'm actively living my life, and you're sitting right here with me. Are you seeing this? What am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
That's a cool response. It took me a minute to get to where you were, but I was like, oh yeah, she's still alive and she's sitting here with me.
Yeah, I guess I just like, that's my dream, is to
Yeah.
just go up on a park bench and have Jesus come up next to me. So
Yeah.
it's really funny how these questions are interpreted differently. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was very much alive in that question.
Thankfully, right? Well, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today. I'm so glad you joined us. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Join us next episode for another encouraging testimony on My Jesus Story podcast.